The stretch and the pitch, swinging a high fly ball into center field and deep. Mitchell going back to the warning track to the wall, and this one is gone. Goodbye, baseball.
Well, the Mariners really do have exciting prospects. And before I explain how I feel about these exciting prospects, and that I do have a very exciting news, you will hear a message from SeatGeek. SeatGeek is a mobile ticketing app for sporting events, concerts, and other events. They make the buying experience easier by the app ranking each ticket from 0 to 10 to see if you are getting a good deal, and you can see exactly where you are sitting. I regularly use that app, and I have had nothing but a fantastic experience with SeatGeek. Use my promo code RoofTopSports to get $20 off of your first purchase. Link to the code, app, and website will be in the description, so take advantage, and thank you. So yes, here I am back for some Mariners talk, and I do apologize for not being there last week as I was just so bottled up with everything else. Combination of hashtag don't quit your day job, hashtag was helping my friends prepare for their Special Olympics basketball tournament, as you did see a video about it, a couple of videos, and a post on my Instagram. So there was that, and also just a lot of other things, and some might even say, well, you just chose not to do it. And you know what? If that was part of the reason, then sure, whatever. But here I am back for some Mariners talk, and must I say, the Mariners prospects have been nothing short of exciting. The prospects that have really stood out, especially the one that has really stood out, is Lazaro Montes, who he has been hyped up to be the next possible Yordan Alvarez. Let's take a look and see how he's been doing for the Mariners in spring training. So right now, in 6 games with 9 at-bats, he's batting .444 with a .583 OBP, 3 strikeouts and 3 walks, 2 home runs, and 6 RBIs. Right now, he is easily the best player in the Mariners' spring training roster, especially as a prospect. Now, some of you are wondering who is Lazaro Montes, although the popular opinion of Lazaro Montes is he's basically, I guess, the second coming of Yordan Alvarez. They call him the baby Yordan, which I have done before in a video. So here were his numbers of 2022 when he played in Dominican Republic. He had 10 home runs, 41 RBIs. This was in 56 games, batted .284 and a .422 on base percentage. Then in 2023, he moved up to the Mariners Arizona club and Modesto, and combined those stats, he batted .303 with 13 home runs and 61 RBIs, and that's where he had a fantastic season. He led Modesto to a championship. And then let's go to 2024, where he started in Modesto, and he was putting up like insane numbers. I mean, his .309 batting average is probably, you might want that to be a little bit higher in A level, but he hit 13 home runs, 72 RBIs in just 66 games with a .411 OBP. But then when he got promoted to Everett, he did struggle a little bit. He had a pretty rocky start, but then I guess he started just a little bit stronger by batting .260, which is a pretty huge difference between his years past. I mean, granted that when he is in a much higher level, let's expect those numbers for him to be challenged. 8 home runs, 33 RBIs with a .378 on base percentage. And I actually did play catch with him for like a split second in Everett when I was at the right field grass area. He was nice enough to throw a ball, play catch. It was pretty cool. But the thing that is most concerning about the Lazaro Montes is that he does strike out. He has a pretty substantial strikeout rate. I mean, last season he struck out 128 times in 117 games, so that still needs a lot of work. Although he seems to be like a feast or famine player, so either he could be just another fantastic, huge slugger like Yordan Alvarez, or hoping that he doesn't end up like Jared Kelenic. So that's the part where I'm nervous about. But in this spring training, he's just been fantastic. He hit 2 home runs, including the one against Chicago, where everyone's just going nuts. And unfortunately, I wasn't there to see it because I was in Wenatchee with my best friend's Special Olympics basketball tournament, where I was helping out with that team, supporting them. and even like giving them some moral support, or not moral support, more like some kind of support, if you know what I mean. So yeah, Lazaro Montes has been one of the big guys, but do I expect him to be at the major league level with this kind of performance even? I don't. Of course, no one should. I think best case scenario, he might just move up to double A. And maybe if he really does well in double A, and I'm thinking this is the best case scenario, maybe he'll be on the Mariners roster maybe like late into the season. I don't expect him to do it in the middle, or definitely not opening day roster. Or what's even more possible is he might just start at A plus and then they'll transition him to double A. And hopefully that's like the worst case scenario. But best case scenario, maybe he makes it to the roster by towards the end of 2025. Maybe 2026 is probably going to be the more realistic. Maybe the more realistic for him to be promoted into Major League Baseball, which would be nice. But right now, Mariners outfield situation is pretty much full. We got Randy Arozarena, Julio Rodriguez, and Victor Robles, if you can trust Victor Robles, because if you can't, then hopefully someone for outfield can step up. But in the meantime, the Mariners seem to be set on their outfield positions compared to their infield position. But hey, if Lazaro Montes makes the team, there is room on the designated hitter spot at least, and maybe like Randy Arozarena, Lazaro Montes, maybe they can switch, or Victor Robles could have a good day off, or they can move him somewhere else. I don't know. But of course, I don't expect him to make it to the Major League roster anytime soon, though. Best case scenario, my prediction, probably September, like August of 25, but I don't expect him to make it because he does have a lot of work to do, because he does have to cut down on those strikeouts. And don't forget, in spring training, when you're hitting well, don't forget that the pitchers are usually just experimenting their pitches, or they're just throwing out a bunch of different pitchers to give them game time. So that's why sometimes the offense is a bit more inflated. Now, it reminds me, if I could just, I don't even know if I could even see Julio Rodriguez spring's training stats of 2022. Maybe make a comparison to there. But granted, he was in Double A prior to spring training. Let's see if there is any of his 2022 stats in spring training, which unfortunately I can't really find, sadly, because they usually don't really put those out there very well. But I think that's going to be enough about Lazaro Montes. Other prospects that have been shining out, Blake Hunt is batting .500, 4 of 8, so a pretty small sample size. Samad Taylor always seems to be that spring training star, but I think he's a AAA player at best. Maybe like another Taylor Trammell kind of guy. Another guy that has, let's take a look at Ryan Bliss. He's batting .308, and they're expecting him to be the starter for the 2025 season for opening day. Felnine Celestine, another big one. He has actually hit 2 of 3 so far, so he's shown us a little bit of potential. He does look sharp on defense, but of course I expect him to start in ACL League Arizona, or if he does really well in spring training, why don't you just put him in Modesto to give him some game time there, and hopefully, hey, he can make it to Everett by the middle of the season, and that will give you a reason to go to an Everett Aqua Sox game. Harry Ford, he's played just 5 games, but he's batting 6 of 10, so maybe he can get some opportunities to maybe get some major league play, but maybe not until like the middle or maybe even next year, because catchers tend to take a little bit longer because they need more of that development as a catcher. And I saw that there was also Colt Emerson. He hasn't really done much, unfortunately. He hasn't even gotten a single hit. He's only scored a run. So obviously, would like to say he's a bit more raw, but he has got on base 3 times with a walk. But I expect Colt Emerson I don't expect him to get any kind of game time anytime soon for Major League Baseball. Probably it's going to be next year or 2 years from now. But right now, expect him to start in Everett for now. So at least there's a player to watch. Then we got Tyler Locklear. He is 4 of 10. He hasn't hit a home run yet, but he's expected to be a power hitter. Maybe I think he'll just start in AAA. And other players that I'm thinking of as well, I think that is pretty much about it. There's Cole Young, who's batting 3 of 10, 300. I probably expect him to start in AA. Hopefully he can get a major league start, but I'm not sure. There's not enough sample size to prove that he can play at the major league level quite yet. But it would be nice, because I just don't like the idea of having Jorge Polanco at third base and Ryan Bliss at second base. That just doesn't seem like a sustainable infield at all. But there is one more prospect that is worth pointing out. We got Ben Williamson, and one of my fellow YouTube commenters, he was nagging me for weeks. Let me see that YouTube comment if I can even find it. He was saying Ben Williamson all over again. Like, he told me that Ben Williamson is possibly one of the other prospects to look forward to in the future. Trying to see if I can find that comment. Bear with me for a few moments if you can. If you don't, well, I don't really blame you. So it wasn't that video. But Ben Williamson, he has shown really good defense, but consensus say that he may be just another Josh Rojas with the better defense, but the hitting not so good. But at this point, if we can get another Josh Rojas for third base, considering of what we've had before, you know what? I'll take it. I mean, I won't be opposed to it at all. Like, I wouldn't see why it would be a bad idea, because again, I just don't want Jorge Polanco at third base. It just seems like a horrible idea to put him there. So unfortunately, I just couldn't find it. I apologize, but there was a commenter, fellow YouTube commenter of mine. He said that Ben Williamson should be in consideration to make the Major League roster, which he has made a decent case so far. I don't think it's going to happen. And also, if you're the one that made that comment, put it in the comments on here so I could find your comment just a little bit better. So, yeah. So the prospects, at least, they have been really fun to watch for the Mariners. That's the thing to hope for, that they will succeed in the future. Now, I do see it in one of two different ways. Now, the first way that this would help the Mariners is, of course, their future. They have a more sustainable future. That's if the Mariners can lock up all their players and if they can develop their players. So maybe the Mariners can make a more of a World Series run with hopefully a better young team in the future, with some of our young players turning into veterans, and then we have some young players to help complement and give Julio Rodriguez some protection, but that's a lot to bank on. But another possibility is leveraging some of these prospects, which Jerry Dipoto and Justin Hollander should have done earlier in the offseason to try to get any of those big names over the past couple years and use those prospects to get the Mariners into a more World Series level team, which they do have a World Series window, but it's just unfortunately running out because Mariners of club control players, they are running out. They're now entering arbitration years, and some are in their pre-arbitration. So once it gets to arbitration, that's when they're going to get a bit more expensive. And then the ultimate death is when they get to free agency and they ultimately just leave the team. Or some players like Cal Raleigh, George Kirby might just demand a trade because they have just had enough of this Mariners management and their incompetence and their unwillingness to actually spend money to get to the World Series. So maybe, and I said maybe a lot because Jim Moore says it all the time, hopefully the Mariners can use those prospects for trade pieces to get some players that will help solidify this infield unit, because now I'm really thinking, because according to a video from Couch GM, he believes that Luis Castillo, or at least the video believes that Luis Castillo may be a fifth starter rather than a third starter that I was thinking of. And I wouldn't know anyone that would think that he would be a number one starter. But man, they really should have made that trade to get Tristan Casas and Masataka Yoshida. They really should have done that kind of trade. But that will be it for the whole Mariners prospect and the excitement. Now, the other exciting news I have is officially I'm going to be at the Mariners-Padres game on March 15th. I got my ticket secured, got my hotel room secured, got my rental car secured, and everything secured. Now I'm just going through some process of being able to access the stadium early on so I could do some before the game podcasting, before the gates open, and then everything will just get insanely loud. So there's that to consider. But yeah, Jay Trident Podcast and I will be there on March 15th. We'll provide updates in the future, and I'm looking forward to the trip and my trip to Arizona. I'm expecting to go to at least one or two, obviously the first game in San Diego, the game in San Diego and against San Diego, and I'm expecting to go to a couple more games in the future. So That will be very exciting. I mean, it'll be the first time I'm meeting Jay Trident Podcast. We have worked together well, and I've always expressed my gratitude towards him, not crying, that he has helped grow my YouTube channel where when I started with him, I was stuck around between the 4 to 500s, and then he helped me. I'm not saying he was the reason, but he was definitely partially the reason why I got to with 1,000. Now I'm at closing in on 2,500 subscribers. And by the way, hit that subscribe button to better support this channel. And we'll be looking forward to getting to know Jay Trident Podcast, as he would be, I guess he would be the third Mariners YouTuber that I would have met. I've already met the Couch GM. I've met Marine Layer Podcast. And now it's going to be Jay Trident Podcast, who will be the third. So definitely looking forward to that. Well, that's going to do it. Just thought I'd put out my thoughts on Mariners prospects and the fact that I'm going to Mariners spring training on March 15th, 2025 in Peoria. Just want to say thank you for watching, and go Mariners.